Hi, this is Jacob with Triple Falls. Gonna have a little bit of different version of TF Cast today. We're gonna be introducing not just our guest Jasmine D'Avilar, but a new show that's gonna be coming to Triple Falls, and some other ways that we're gonna be doing content a little bit differently in the future. We are going to be hosting a new page called TF Black Voices, and a show to accompany it that will be run entirely by people of color. And hopefully it's going to end up just being a net positive for everyone, uplifting voices and whatever content that they choose to make eventually. Our first contributor is Jasmine. I'll let you introduce yourself a little bit. Tell us how you came to Mankato and into a little bit of the activism that you've been doing around here, and just let us know a little bit about you.
All right. So again, my name is Jasmine D'Avilar. I'm a recent graduate of MSU, class of 2020. I originally moved to Mankato about 5 years ago in 2015, specifically for college. So prior to attending college, I didn't necessarily know of Mankato. So I'm fairly new to the town. However, I've definitely found a community here whilst I've been here for the last 5 years. During school, I was, kind of involved with some of the Women of Action committee groups and some of the Black student-led groups on campus. But I wasn't necessarily involved as I wanted to be. I wanted to focus on school primarily. So after graduating, obviously we have been dealing with the, aftermath of the murder of George Floyd. And Mankato, did respond with, putting together some protests. However, they were led by, white organizers that I didn't necessarily feel were representing the Black community here. So I took the initiative to organize my own protest. And it is a daily protest on the Veterans Memorial Bridge every night at 8 p.m. And then at 8:15, we start that moment of silence for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. Referring to the amount of time that George Floyd was, held to the ground without air. And that's kind of just what sparked my initiative in becoming an organizer here in Mankato. I know that I always wanted to get more involved with the community here. I'm pretty close with a lot of people of the LGBT community here in Mankato. So that's kind of a little bit of my background as far as my place here in Mankato.
Cool. And you're staying in Mankato?
Yeah, so I'll be here at least for another year. I am not quite sure of my future plans yet. I am originally from the Twin Cities, so I've been thinking about moving back up there, just better opportunities for me. But I do want to stay connected to Mankato, so whatever work I'm doing here, I aim to continue doing that work whilst living in Minneapolis.
Cool. Can you tell us a little bit more about the protest that's been ongoing on the bridge? Maybe the philosophy behind the moment of silence and what you would like people to take away from it.
The very first night of the protest was very, very emotional for me, and I didn't think that it would have as much of an impact on me as it would, and I believe that it also had a huge impact on the people that were attending there. I think the message that I want to, present to the world with this protest is that 8 minutes and 46 seconds is a long time. And I didn't realize just how long it was until I experienced that moment of silence myself. And, thinking of all the ways that I have been, criminalized just for being, a Black woman in the United States, and just thinking of, that could have been my father. George Floyd and my father are the same age. And so it was really, really personal for me in that moment. And I think for a lot of people, especially a lot of our white allies, didn't really take that time to think of. I think that it allows them to put themselves in George's shoes and really think about just how long that moment is. And also to think about how, if the roles were switched, if that was a white person being held down, like, would it have been that long? Or would it, would there even have been that amount of force of violence on that on that person had they been white or a different skin color. So I think it's been really impactful for people to not only observe that moment of silence, but to also form a community around people who still care and still want to show up and show support for the community, especially with Minneapolis. There's been a lot of, destruction and community needs, and Minnesota has been stepping up, and I think that's amazing. And Mankato has also been showing support. And I think it's just a great way to continue building that support and continuing the momentum of the movement. And I just think it's really awesome for not only the protest to be a daily thing, having it later on in the evening, it can be more accessible to people who might not be able to make it one day, but they can make it the next day and the next day after that. And so I think that's something that's really powerful about the protest that I've been leading.
I wanted to remark that the first time I ever felt that period of time was when I was out there covering it, and I realized that the video had actually been edited.
Yeah.
Like they cut it down, I think, to 3 or 4 minutes, and it was that was kind of the emotional moment that I had while I was out there. It's like, wow, people can't even hold their attention for this long to watch someone struggle in that way. Sorry, I just had that thought.
Yeah.
The long-term impact for Mankato, though, I've heard you speak a little bit about folks showing up in the long run. What does that look like around here, in your opinion?
I think that seeing people continue to show up is a really, positive impact on Mankato as a community and how willing people are for this change to come. I've been connected with other organizers and organizations in, St. Peter and Mankato, and a lot of people are joining forces right now and trying to figure out how to move, the community that we've been building on the bridge, and how do we create change and more community engagement outside of the bridge. So this is kind of like a foundational thing to get, more inclusion, more people to show up. And then in the future, I hope to, put together more community events where people can learn more about how to challenge their internalized biases and things like that. I really want to take an educational route with how we proceed in the future with the movement. I think it's, a lot of people can feel overwhelmed in their place of the movement. Some people are not meant for the front lines, and, to be at the protest and be in, within close distance of police and riot gear and things like that. So I think that this would be a great way for people to get involved by challenging their day-to-day experiences with people of color. And I think that would overall change how we look at each other as a community and as a country.
Yeah, I think that's really great. And I really like the way that you presented the protest to be repetitive like that. Mm-hmm. Because I really do think it does a great job of letting people show up, even just once, to see what it's about. And that I think what I've seen is that people really do feel that it's something important, and it raises the right sort of awareness, lets people really think about what sort of impact will and can be made going forward.
Right. And I've just been feeling like a huge community, like in a close bond with all the people that have been continuing to show up. I've recognized faces since the very first time that we started this. So it's been really great to see. I know a lot of people are, emotionally invested in this movement and emotionally invested in the daily protest. So I want to keep that momentum and keep people showing up. And it's been great to see, new faces every time. Like I asked the question, who's been here for the first time? And it's always new people every time. So that's been really inspiring and, encouraging me to keep going, especially because I'm very new to organizing, but I'm really hopeful that I can help, make some kind of change in Mankato. And I know that it helps to see a Black face or a Black person, speak out about these things and be really passionate about it and come to you with comfort too. You can, depending on how you view other people, you can be really intimidated by someone, being passionate and telling you like, this is how I'm feeling, this is how our community is grieving. But when you, reach out with compassion, you're going to get compassion back. And I think people are really seeing that from things that I have said, things that other, Black members of the community have said and spoke about their experiences. I think that's really important, just having those conversations about this is the life that I experience, and it's important for other people who may not experience those same things to know what that's like. I think that's very, very valuable in, how we move forward.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, even with the amount of time that the 8 minutes and 46 seconds that we stand on the bridge, it's interesting. Like I would attribute this to my privilege, but I can't imagine a situation where I would be held on the ground by police like that. And so for me to stand there for that amount of time and kind of take it all in, it really does make you think about the differences that we experience in this world, and the way that justice is delivered.
Absolutely. And even for myself, like, even though I haven't had many negative interactions with the police as far as physical violence against me, I personally even didn't even think of how long that could be. But it also was a reality check for me as well, because it very well could have been me, and I could have been in a situation similar. So I think it's a great moment of reflection, and you really dig deep. I think everyone could probably have that similar story in their head of what they were thinking about during that 8 minutes and 40 seconds. So I think it's been really powerful for people to acknowledge that and then still continue to show up. I think that's been really, really amazing.
Yeah. In one of the speeches you gave after that moment of silence, I heard you say something along the lines of one of the issues that you perceive is that cops are basically being called for jobs they're ill-equipped to perform in. And I think that Jacob and I have been having a lot of conversations about that, and just sort of how that plays out. I'm wondering if you want to talk about that at all, or...
Yeah. So in the conversations of, people calling for defunding the police and things like that, it's not about necessarily completely getting rid of police in general. It's about taking all those resources that we're putting into the police force and putting it back into the community, so that we aren't having cops that are ill-equipped to handle certain situations such as a mental health breakdown or, homelessness. Obviously that needs to be, challenged with other, people that are actually experts on, these societal issues. And, police, when they show up and they have, obvious weapons of force, that's intimidating, and it can really, really impact someone's experience if they're going through a mental health crisis. And so I think it's really important that we start investing more into community-based, ways that we can interact with our community and help them get out of these situations. We don't need police for every single societal issue. And I think that's the biggest thing too, is that a lot of these deaths could be avoided. And, just talking about what does that look like in the future, as far as like police response, and there needs to be more training, especially on, their implicit biases and how they interact with people of color. I don't think any police officer should go in fearing for their lives already. Like, why are you becoming police officers if, you have this inherent fear of Black bodies, and especially Black men? There definitely needs to be more education on deconstructing how we view each other, especially. So that's kind of what I was coming across with, police not being well equipped for certain, scenes that they're called onto. I don't think a lot of the time they're necessary to be brought on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really, one of the things that made me think of is a term, core competency, which I learned in my engineering schooling, but it's like the idea that something has a function that it's well equipped or it's best equipped to handle. And the core competency of a modern police officer just doesn't, it's like not the thing that they often get called for. So I thought you worded it nicely in that speech, which I was taking video of, and it's good to hear your thoughts on that expanded.
Yeah, and I think Minneapolis is doing a good job in like setting the tone for the rest of the country. Minneapolis City Council has already been voting on trying to either defund the police or figure out different ways that the community can respond to each other instead of, investing more money into the police. Police forces should not have more funding than education or mental health services. And that's something I think across the country people are becoming more aware of and want, to change that. So I think this moment has been really beneficial in getting some of that actual change instead of trying to reform police, because clearly that hasn't been working. Yeah.
Yeah. It's wild. Well, and I think even with the, again, back to like the amount of time and the way that the video in which George Floyd was murdered appears, it really does unfortunately, it does a good job of contextualizing that experience for people. So I think it really did raise a lot of good conversations and has having a longer lasting impact. And hopefully we can make some positive changes resulting from it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk any about TF Black Voices? I know it's brand new.
I mean, you kind of introduced the idea to me, so maybe you want to kind of touch on what what was the reason behind, bringing up that topic to me and why you want, other Black voices to be amplified, things like that.
Well, the reason that I think we had the idea in the first place was there's been a lot of listening going on. We started live streaming, and I'm now listening to community leaders speak, and I'm listening to, these representatives from the Black community who are chosen to speak. And one thing, I was at the Beams event on this last Sunday. And something that really bothered me was that there were these two amazing speakers. And it was passionate. They're just these passionate descriptions of like growing up Black in America, interacting with the police, like racism within the community. And they were heartbreaking to listen to. And then in the middle, we have a police officer who said, he introduced himself, credentialed himself, and then said, tomorrow's going to be better. And it was very calm. And to me, it just sounded like, wow, like you just listened to that. And like you said, nothing. Like it doesn't, to me, it sounds like there's not any reasonable change. Like better has been going on for the last, since the civil rights era. They've even been acknowledging that there's a problem.
Right. So
like to me, better sounds like a lie. It sounds like I'm being dismissed. Like you want me to go away and shut up and things can stay the same. And at the same time, there's lots of people who are saying like, you just need to listen to the Black community.
Yeah.
Like at large and understand their experience. And, honestly, like we talk all day. We do this. Like we have a platform. Like why aren't we using our platform to do the thing that we're talking about? You talked about who is on the front lines and who's doing this or that. Like we're a media company. We tell people what's going on. Like, just kind of like walk the walk thing. I feel like it's what we should be doing, and I'm not sure if I'm getting it right.
Yeah.
But like that, I feel like it's the best use of our platform. And I feel like arts and culture, like in America as a whole, has been formed by Blackness.
Absolutely.
Music, it's something that I'm obsessed with. And there isn't any American music that isn't, basically, founded or in some ways comes directly from Black people. And, hopefully one day, Triple Falls will be not posting about activism 4 times a day. And it'll be, I want to live in a better world, and I will still be obsessed with media then. And I think that, having people of color curating that experience is more valuable, not just to the community, but also to like those people and Triple Falls, and just, I don't know. That's kind of like my roundabout way of explaining what we're trying to do here.
Right.
I can add just a little bit to that. I mean, I think we've been developing some sort of a small platform, small growing platform, and even just us being out and seeing all of this protest and all this activism, we realize we're kind of ill-equipped to handle certain kind of situations, and so we would like to use our platform and our ability to share the voices that maybe need a little bit more space for that. And so we're just trying to do what we can to help make a difference. And if it turns out that that's not, I mean, we're flexible with how that happens. And if it's us right now, what we can offer really is our time. So we're happy to help facilitate that kind of an experience, and would really like everything to be better. I think that's one way you can move in that direction.
So I was super, touched by, your both of you guys' willingness to, share your platform to amplify Black voices. And I think it's a really good idea to, begin having these conversations, not even just between us, but, we could have, other members of the Black community and just have these conversations and just really delve into some of the roots of what we've been taught to, and socialize into being, and how, our experiences are not being validated by, the very country that we grew up in and helped build, So I think it's very, very important to hear our stories and to just, talk about Black issues, talk about the Black community, because yes, America is, built off of Black culture. And I think it's very important that if you want to participate and partake in Black culture, you need to listen to Black stories, and you need to understand the root of, a lot of our culture is from our oppression. It's a reflection of that. And it's how we respond to oppression is where we get our culture, our music, and understanding the history of that is very, very important if you, want to continue participating in Black culture. I think it's very important, especially for our white allies. You can be obsessed with Black culture and rap music and all these things, but you're not actually vocal about, these particular Black issues that we are even rapping about, So I think it's really, really important to, use your platform if you have it to give Black people that space, because a lot of the times we are silenced and we are, taught to just shut up about it and not be too passionate about things and kind of just let it go. So I really, really think that this would be a great way to start talking about some of these difficult conversations, and to have other Black, content creators or just members of the community to talk about some of these issues. I think it would be really, really awesome. And I do hope that some of the Black community, I know a lot of people who were involved in, school organizations, if they're willing to have those conversations, even talk about the groups that they're doing, and what kind of, work that they're doing as well, and amplify that, on this platform. I think that'd be great. So thank you guys for offering your time and, your resources to, help me even be on here. Like, we wouldn't even have met had we not had that protest. So thank you guys for having me here, and, for wanting to listen to me and want, more from me and more from the Black community. So.
Well, yeah. And I can't thank you enough for being here.
Yeah.
I feel like that was kind of a good spot to start wrapping things up.
Yeah.
Unless you have any specific messages you want to say. But I can't thank you enough for being here and like taking the time to speak with us, and your activism. Like, the leadership is absolutely necessary, and people are like, the way that I've seen people behave and change and like move around that event has been it's been amazing for me as a person who's been here. And I don't know, I'm excited to start the show and keep working with you and see how this all ends up, and hopefully ends up with a better world.
Right.
That's what I want, is a better world.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, thank you for well, I guess we can do plugs. We didn't do plugs. Do you have any place you would like to direct our listeners to?
You guys can follow me on my Instagram. It's at Jasmine D'Avilar, JasmineDavilar. And I will plug too that I'm a crochet artist. So I hand make crochet stuff, particularly clothing and things like that. But yeah, that handle is at the crochet gay.
Cool. And the protest?
Yes, the protest is happening today and every day at 8 p.m. on the Veterans Memorial Bridge, and show up however you are, and just be ready to, reflect and, feel that community surrounding you.
Before we actually end it, I want to mention more about the crochet thing. That's really cool. I actually, back in middle school, I crocheted a hat that was like, it went from green to blue to pink, and then it had these like pink and green spikes on it.
Nice.
And so I'm into that. That's cool.
Yeah, maybe you can have like a crochet, like I could teach everyone how to crochet or something.
Yeah, I'm totally going to check out that page. We can link everything below, and yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you guys.
Thank you.